Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Josh Guerrero here, and welcome to the All Around Adventure Podcast. Whether you're joining me for the first time or you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, I certainly do want to welcome you here. And as always, I want to thank you for being here today, just because I know that you're busy and that you got a lot going on and that there's also a lot out there on the internet these days that's trying to get your attention. But it just means so much to me that you've chosen to download and listen to this podcast. Now, if you are in fact new to this podcast and you're not entirely sure what we're all about here, this is the show where you hear amazing tales from afar and get the all-important life lessons that go along with them. And those will be stories from myself, as well as the amazing guests that I welcome on this podcast. But in this episode, you just have me today. This is a solo cast. Don't really have a fancy name for the solo cast like I used to in the past. This is just simply the solo show. And it's like I said, I just share some of my own stories, try to extrapolate some life lessons from them to share with you all. Like to keep these short, sweet, and simple to the point, maybe just about 10 minutes or so, just to give you something to chew on as you go into your week. I also like to just speak from the heart or fire from the hip, I suppose I'll say, with these episodes, and don't really have a script in front of me that I'm reading off of or anything like that. So you may hear me stumble a little bit as we get into this, but I'm just keeping it real with you all. I'm not perfect. After all, I'm just a human being. But I'm on a journey looking to better myself in some ways. And like I said, hopefully with what I learned along the way, I can share with you all to help you all as well. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get right on into this. And you notice that the title of this episode is A Person of Integrity. And I thought about this topic when I was doing some reflecting on something that I did a little over 2 years ago. And if you've been following me for a while now, or if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, you would know that a couple years ago, I did a through hike across the entire state of Michigan to raise money for a nonprofit that helps veterans called American Veterans Archaeological Recovery. And to do this, I started on the Wisconsin-Michigan state line in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, headed east across the Upper Peninsula, across the Mackinac Bridge, and then I went straight south down Michigan's Lower Peninsula to the Ohio-Michigan state line. Total distance was about 1,200 miles, and it took me 3.5 months to do. And I also started a little bit late in the year. I started in late August and I finished by mid-December. So I was getting into the winter months of Michigan. So the temperature dropped. I had a couple of snowfall days, and I remember some mornings I was waking up and I could hear snow and wind hitting my tent. And I won't lie to you all, there was a couple of moments during this trek where I actually thought about throwing in the towel and calling it quits. And I was in kind of those dark moments, and I was saying things to myself like, you know what, I think maybe I've hiked far enough, and maybe I raised enough money. I think that's good. That's enough. I could call it there and I could go home. But I didn't do it. I didn't throw in the towel. I didn't quit. I kept going, and I ultimately made it to the Ohio-Michigan state line. And there was a couple reasons for this. One, and I won't really dive too deep into this, I think this might actually warrant an entire solo cast in and of itself. And that is that I knew that there was a veteran out there, you know, as we speak, as you're listening to this podcast episode or watching the video on YouTube, that's thinking about quitting himself. And he's thinking about quitting on life. And therefore, I knew that I couldn't quit because I didn't want him to. And that's also why I know I can't quit on things now, because the same scenario applies even to today. But there was also another thing, and this is what I want to talk about in this particular solo cast as to why I couldn't quit that expedition. And that was simply because I told myself, as well as other people and the nonprofit American Veterans Archaeological Recovery, that I was going to do this, that I was going to hike across the entire state of Michigan. And I knew that quitting early and going home and not finishing this would have put me out of integrity, because I told all these people, including myself, that I was going to do this. And so therefore I knew that to be within integrity, I had to finish, even if it was going to be hard, even if it was going to be uncomfortable. And if I were to maybe say have gotten injured along the way and I had to take some time off, well, I'll heal up and I'll get right back on the trail where I left off. And then I'd keep on going until I finished, because that's what being within integrity means to me. And I mean, there's of course a specific definition for integrity if you were to look it up, but I know a part of this is to do the things that you say that you're going to do, to be honest. And I didn't want to be out of integrity in that moment, nor do I want to be out of integrity now in this day and age. And I will certainly admit I haven't always succeeded at this in my life. But again, part of the journey, this is something that I continuously try to work on here. And I do feel like there is a disconnect in this day and age, or an integrity gap, if you will, compared to what people say that they're going to do with what they actually do, or the lack of following through on what they say that they're going to do. Almost to the point where if you are actually someone who follows through on what you say that you're going to do, you're way ahead of the curve and you're ahead of the competition, frankly, especially if you're going into different arenas in life. And I think you'll actually surprise a lot of people too, because I feel like this happens almost so often that a lot of people just kind of come to expect it. Where that if someone actually tells them that they're going to do something, they may just have the expectation, just be like, oh, well, he may not actually do it, so let's not get our hopes up. And then they may be pleasantly surprised if someone actually follows through. And I feel that's important to actually do so, because going back to this example of me doing my through hike across Michigan, that if I didn't follow through with this and I didn't make it to the very end and kept going, even on this moment where I felt like I wanted to quit, I would have been out of integrity, and I also would have been a liar. Because let's face it, if you tell someone that you're going to do something and you don't do it, that makes you a liar. It's called lying. And I've been lied to many times in my life, and I did not want to be a liar in that moment either. So therefore, even though I was having this tough go and this dark moment and I was uncomfortable, I just kept going because I had to do it. So think about, how might this be applicable in certain areas of your life? Have there been some moments recently where you didn't follow through on the things that you said you were going to do? And maybe this doesn't always have to be with things that you tell others that you're going to do, but what about maybe yourself? Like, did you say that you were going to go to the gym today? And maybe you didn't do it because you were feeling tired, or things got in the way, or whatever the case may be, so you didn't do the workout that you said that you were going to do. That's also being out of integrity, because you said that to yourself. So think about that as you go into this week here. And how can you kind of sort of close that integrity gap, as I said earlier in this episode? And this could be with small things as well as big things. Like if you tell your wife that you're going to take out the trash, take out the trash. If you tell your kids that you're going to take them to the park to go play, take them to the park so that they could play. Really try to follow through on the things that you say that you're going to do. Because again, that's going to make you an anomaly, because I do not feel that this is something that is so commonplace in this day and age where it's viewed as normal. So yeah, that's really just what I want to talk about today. Again, just like to keep these solo casts short, sweet, and simple to the point. And that's some of my story that I want to share with you all. And again, I hope you were able to take some lessons from it that you could start implementing into your own life moving forward. And if you did, in fact, enjoy today's episode, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast directory. And you can also subscribe to the All Around Adventure YouTube channel. I upload these episodes once a week, every Monday, alternating between solocast and guest episodes. And you can also connect with me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram, and my handle is @allaroundadventure. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. It really means a lot to me to have you here. And be sure to check in next Monday when I release a brand new episode featuring another fantastic guest. All right, everyone. Have an outstanding week, and I will see you all next time.